Quit eating your burgers off a coffee table. If you want to eat a burger, put it on a bar. Follow your instincts to B-dubs for the new All-American Cheeseburger. Fresh, juicy beef smashed till it's crispy around the edges, covered in gooey cheese, and stacked to the ceiling with deliciousness. And knock that baby down with a frosted beer at the bar, just like the sports gods intended. The new All-American Cheeseburger at Buffalo Wild Wings. Roar! Please drink responsibly.
I'll say this for him, he's consistent.
Well, he's been so consistent all year.
Not the taste, consistency.
Consistently, yes.
Consistency! Thanks, losers.
And we are back for another episode of the Fantasy Football Consistency Show here on the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network. Very proud to be a part of this group. Having a great time and on some other shows with Jim Day, Andy Singleton. It's been great. So welcome back again this week. And as always, my co-host Ron Rigney is here live from Florida. And it's hot down there, I'm assuming.
Yeah, heat index was only I think 108 the last couple of days.
Good.
So
nice.
It's a little balmy. You sweat a little bit,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's not a dry heat like Vegas, though.
No,
it's dry heat. It's definitely not. Yeah,
definitely not dry heat.
No, sir.
It was a nice, comfortable 75-ish today. Cool breeze. It was nice up here today. So I think it's supposed to heat up next week, though. I thought I saw next Friday is 88. So that's hot for us. That's hot for us. The question is whether the humidity kicks in, but we've gotten a ton of rain in June. I think we're 2 inches over our normal, and that was as of June 16th or something. So it's been crazy.
Yeah, we've had a little bit of that, but it dried out the last couple of days. But it got ultra hot, so I'm only imagining if it's already a heat index of 108 in June, what it's going to be like in late July and August. So
yeah, can't imagine.
Like the surface of the sun. I don't know. So we'll see.
Yeah. When we were down in Fort Myers there end of May. I remember people talking basically it'll die off here. Like, die off? I would go, it's summer in Florida. Why? Isn't that where everybody goes south? They're like, well, actually, no. Everybody's here from January to April or May. And I'm like, Oh, well, that's probably true. But, I thought most of the, families with kids and that, go into summer. But they said, no, it actually dies off in the summer. I'm like, okay, I guess that makes sense. Yeah. I guess when I get old enough, I'll be down there hopefully in the winter months as well. But anyway, we're here to talk fantasy football as always. And once again, like we said, we're here as part of the Full-Time Fantasy Podcast Network. And as always, we're here to talk fantasy football consistency. And with fantasy football consistency, we have this super cool thing out called the Fantasy Football Consistency Guide 2019 version. Out on Amazon. So if you have not had a chance to get it, make sure you grab it. It's certainly out there and available. And also, if you have a local place where you would normally buy magazines, like your fantasy football magazines on the shelf, if you'd be so kind to go in, talk to the manager, and ask them to buy the Consistency Guide and get it on their shelves this year, it is available in the distribution network. So let them know about that. Somebody actually just bought 14 of them the other day for somewhere. I wish I knew where they were going. But all I need now is Walmart to buy 80,000 of them, and I'm golden. So if you, like I said, local store, whoever, just go in and say, hey, look at your distribution list for your magazines and see if you can find the Consistency Guy, because it's obviously out there. So I know you said you were going to talk to your Whole Foods guy and get him all lined up.
Absolutely. He's a sports guy, so I think it'll be pretty easy to hook him. Plus my managers are fantasy football guys as well, so I think I have a nice in there also. So yeah, we should be on the. And
tell him you'll be able to sign copies for him because you're in it.
I could. Yeah. I could make appearances. Yeah.
Yeah, you could have like a book signing. Maybe I'll fly down for it. We'll both sign. I'm in. I'll come down. Some Saturday. Cheap flights down to Fort Myers anyway. Mm-hmm. But the Consistency Guide is out there. As I tell everybody, once you get the guide, then the best case scenario, which you want to move next to after that, is on the bottom of the pages, there's a coupon code, and that coupon code will allow you to upgrade to the VIP status, which is all access to the website, BigGuyFantasySports.com. Gets you all access to the newly improved consistency report. It gives you access to all the articles, all the tools, the tier draft list updates, updates of the magazine itself all summer long. And so you're 100% prepared. You'll have the most current information when you go into your drafts come August time. That's only $10 once you buy the magazine online, and you can use that code. So that's the best deal. That way you're dropping about $20. Can't beat that. So, that's for all seasons from now till into December. So make sure you get hooked up with that. And, I'm still getting lots of tweets and stuff of people getting them. I got a guy that got his in Mexico the other day. That was pretty cool. He was very excited to get his. I thought he got it in Brazil, but here he only lived in Mexico. I'm like, damn. So still selling internationally. That still cracks me up. But we're excited about that. And there, of course, is the Consistently Cashing with Colby and Ron. And we'll be working on the prop bet consistency later this summer. Josh Brickner and his Standard League articles are in there as well. So if you're in a non-PPR league or Standard League, those will help you out tremendously. So they're all there in the guide. Don't forget to get those. The big other exciting news coming up later this summer. So the weekend of Sunday, August 17th and Sunday, August 18th. On Saturday, August 17th, of course, is the revisiting of the Kings Classic, year number 2. We'll be coming back to Canton, Ohio. All the top experts will be there drafting in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Still haven't talked to the hall yet about having it open to the public, but I'm going to do that very soon and get that set up. But it is the times are set up. We're actually doing it a little bit earlier. It's going to go from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., and so a little bit earlier in the day, which is good, and that'll be a good time. Then on Sunday, August 18th, this is where everybody can come to. So in Canton, Ohio, at the Cultural Center, it's literally 2 miles from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We're going to have the first ever Midwest Fantasy Football Expo. And that expo will be 30-plus experts there in a trade show booth kind of setup where you can meet with the guys, talk with them. They can give you, their information, share their knowledge, their thoughts on certain players, certain scenarios, whatever the case may be. There will, of course, be consistency guides for sale. We're going to have T-shirts with it as well. And it's going to be a great time. It's going to run from noon to 6 on Sunday, August 18th. And if you go to MidwestFFExpo.com, you can buy your tickets there. There's literally a button that says Buy Tickets. And the menu that says Buy Tickets, use the code BIGGUY, BIGGUY, and that will save you $5 on the admission. So instead of paying $20, it's only $15 to get in. You're going to get a swag bag full of stuff, just jam-packed full, that's going to probably be triple, quadruple, maybe even 10 times the value of $15. We're talking about coupons for FWC Championship, play FWC with full-time fantasy. There's going to be VIP accesses from Big Guy Fantasy Sports. There's going to be, consistency guides. It's going to be, coupons from all of these different sites, sharing their discounts with you so you can save hopefully hundreds of dollars. That's our goal, is to make it worth the while. It's not just a $15 to show up and talk to people, but you're going to get something. It's more they're going to pay for that when you walk out the door. So that's what we're hoping for. During that event, there's going to be a live podcast stage. We're going to have podcasts running every hour on the hour. You can sit and watch and listen. Then in a separate main event area, there's going to be a stage where it seats about 200 people. We're going to have everything from speakers to mock drafts to Q&A sessions, panel discussions, whatever. There's going to be a whole lineup set of all these top experts going to be there chatting, talking, interacting. It's going to be a great time. We can't wait for you folks to be there. Ron's going to be there. He's going to be helping out Big Guy Fantasy Sports, maybe Fantrax, but we don't know. But Ron's excited. I know he can't wait to come up. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, it's always a good time. I mean, when you have the Hall of Fame involved, like we talked about it, Hall of Fame never gets old. I could do that, I think, every day, and I would see something that I've never seen before or that I missed the day before. So Hall of Fame is always cool. And the Expo is going to be awesome. I mean, you get swag, mock drafts, bring your questions. You can sit there. If I'm in one of the mock drafts, you can boo me when I take my boy Jack Doyle in the first round. You can throw things at me, whatever you want to do. So, but yeah, I mean, you get your questions answered. We'll, look at your draft strategy. Sleepers, if there is such a thing anymore. Guys maybe coming off injuries that we like, and it's always cool to
help you with keepers. Keepers is always a big thing around that time because usually you're a week or two away from your draft, and you have to keep you can keep 3 guys. Maybe we can help you with that. We play in a bunch of those kind of leagues as well, so that'll definitely be a very cool time. And like I said, once again, so set your social calendars. Sunday, August 18th, noon to 6. The website is MidwestFFExpo.com. Go there, buy your tickets, use Big Guy for the code, save $5, and you'll have your tickets ahead of time. And you'll get locked in, and won't have a problem. Just walk right in the door with your PDF ticket, and you'll be good to go. Save you $5 at the door. So, all right. So let's get into fantasy football because that's what we're here to talk about, and that's always an exciting, good time. So this week we're going to get into the tight ends, and over the last few weeks we have done basically the xConsistency rankings of the players from last year, and we compare them to where their ADPs are and whether that's a good value or a not so good value. And we know that tight ends are quite the fickle group. There's, the top 3. There might even be really a top 1 with Kelsey, and then Ertz and Kittel are, around after the fact. Right now the ADP for those guys are still floating in round 2 and round 3. So if you want them, you've got to get them. You've got to go after them. Now, there's certainly good arguments that, based on the xConsistency of Travis Kelce last year, he would have ranked 5th in wide receivers. That's how good he was last year. But with Travis, Travis Hill, maybe not. It's not Travis. Is it Travis? Jesus. Yeah, right? Am I saying that right?
I don't know. Sounds right, but I don't know.
All of a sudden, I went brain dead. It is Travis.
I did too. There must,
are they
must
both
be something
Travis
about
Hill?
Sunday evening.
Hill. Gosh, I can't believe I'm actually looking this up and I still can't find him. Why can't I find Hill? Beckham, Brown, Evanson, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Lockett. Tyreek Hill. Jesus. God. I knew it wasn't Travis. I'm they can't be both Travis. Tyreek Hill. That was terrible. I blame lots of the drugs I was on this week after surgery. That's
okay.
So, with Tyreek Hill having his issues, we don't know how many games he's going to lose due to suspension. Could be 4, could be 6, 8. We don't know. We're still not 100% sold that he's going to get off the hook entirely, but we'll see. But at this point, it's a crapshoot. So my thought is with Tyreek going away for a while, I think teams are going to double team Travis Kelce and let Demarcus Robinson, Sammy Watkins, McCole Hardman beat them, and they might. It's not saying that Kelsey's going to probably lose too much, but it certainly makes a big difference if Tyreek is not on the field. That's what scares me a little bit about taking him too early, especially early second round, which is where he's got to go, where he's going, 204 at this point. Have you taken Kelsey in any draft at this point? I've done a bunch of best balls. I think I might have taken him in one where I got him on the turn at 3-1. He made it to 212, and so I'm okay, I'll take. I think I took I already had Zeke, and I took I don't know if it was a wide receiver like AJ Green, and then I took Kelsey. I'm let's give it a shot. But it's about the only one I think I've had that opportunity.
No, I haven't paid up to take him that early in any of my drafts. The only place that I have any Travis Kelce is in a dynasty league that I made a trade for him when I thought, it's one like you alluded to earlier. We keep 5 guys. It's an IDP league, so it's a pretty solid deal for me. I traded some guys that I wasn't going to keep and traded a pick. And got some good return on that. But I find myself kind of ending up in that David Njoku, Eric Ebron, well, not even Eric Ebron, Evan Engram, Jared Cook kind of range where I don't really feel like, and it's not because I'm opposed to taking Kelsey that early, because I think it could be worth it. But the drafts haven't shaken out that way. I feel like there's been better options, around those picks, like Fantasy Football Calculator still has him at 2.6. I haven't taken him at 2.6. He hasn't really slid in any of my drafts. It's just the way that the drafts have worked out. I just haven't been able to get him.
Right. We go to the next two guys on the list. That's Zach Ertz and George Kittle, which are pretty much going neck and neck in the third round. Right now, Fantasy Football Calculator has them at 304 for Ertz and 308 for Kittle. So they're about 4 spots apart. That's pretty much what I've seen. Sometimes they get a little more spread out. I've actually seen people take Kittle ahead of Ertz. I think that's pushing it, but again, with Jimmy G there, we'll just have to wait and see if Jimmy G plays all season and how that may work out. Remember, most of the season last year, Jimmy G and Kittle weren't together, so Kittle was more of a security blanket for all the other scabs that were taking their place. Again, when you look at Kittle and Ertz, they would have ranked 13th and 16th respectively in the receivers' xConsistency rankings. And their ADPs would kind of line up with that range being drafted in that spot. Again, it's really your preference. I'm not really sold on the receivers outside of like the top 25. So I'm kind of worried about taking a shot on an Ertz or Kittle, and then being stuck with my wide receiver 3 being, somebody like, Emmanuel Sanders or, Allen Robinson or Corey Davis or Sterling Shepard, where if I don't take one of those guys and I go early 3 receivers, I'm taking Jarvis Landry as my 3rd receiver, or, somebody, Cooper Kupp or something like that, where I feel a lot better consistency-wise. So, I guess it's tit for tat here, when it's coming down to these guys and where you're getting them. But like I said, I see the concept. I see the value. I have to believe that Ertz has a better chance of repeating those numbers than Kittle does. Not that Kittle isn't a good player, but didn't he break the record for most receiving yards for a tight end ever? Not even just like as a rookie. Wasn't it ever?
Yeah, it was a good amount. And one of the things at this point is, too, when you're I'm looking at the list right here, and I actually have it sorted by targets. And one of the things that I'm looking at here is you think about these top 3 guys like Kittle, Kelsey, and Ertz. One of the things that you look at is their main weapons for their team. And as you kind of go down the list, when you're looking at guys that might be main weapons that are going to be involved a ton, it kind of starts to drop off a little around the Eric Ebron, Jared Cook range. Mm-hmm. Because Eric Ebron, I don't know necessarily if he's considered a main weapon. He's right here 4th in targets last year with 110. But once you get to that Jared Cook, Jimmy Graham, those are kind of complementary weapons to other things on that offense. So I think, just kind of lumping these 3 guys together, they have 135 targets on up, starting there with George Kittle at the bottom with 135. So I think that those are the 3 guys that are going to get the most work because they're going to be focal points in the offense. The other guys, I think, are more complementary pieces at this point. Plus, too, you look at some of the receiver situations, like Kittle example. Marquise Goodwin's a guy I think could have a nice little bounce-back season. Dante Pettis is there. They have some guys that are improving. You mentioned Tyreek Hill. Those guys could be, even though, you mentioned it could potentially hurt Kelsey that Tyreek Hill's out, that could mean more targets as well. And Pat Mahomes is a pretty solid quarterback, as we saw.
But my concern is that the teams will be doubling Kelsey out coming off the line, chipping him a lot. Have one lineman chip him and another linebacker hit him, and keep him basically out of the picture as much as possible. And again, let the rookies or the other players who are not as proven beat them when there's no Hill there to stretch a field as much. Watkins is decent, but he's not Tyreek Hill by any stretch of the imagination. So, like I said, it's interesting. If I was going to pick one of the 3, I think right now I would lean more towards Ertz repeating just because there hasn't been much change in Philadelphia. They did get Deshaun Jackson. If anything, that spreads the field out, which allows Ertz to have more room underneath, in my mind. So, but yeah, like I said, it's just a question of if you take him in the 3rd, then who is your second running back, or who's your who's going to be your wide receivers when you get to rounds 4, 5, and 6. So, I haven't played around with enough mock drafts to try it out. I'll be working here probably in July, mid-July. I'll start working on the perfectly consistent drafts, and I'll have to kind of play that out and see if I get better numbers with Ertz as my third round pick instead of my wide receiver 2, or and wait and get somebody. But again, that doesn't track consistency. So that's why I always feel like I might take a guy like, my third wide receiver might be somebody like Emmanuel Sanders or Larry Fitzgerald or Marvin Jones, who I think can have a good bounce back and get back in that 70% range. Well, that doesn't mean anything to fantasy pros. That's whatever their projections are. So we'll just have to wait and see. And
something real quick I want to throw out there target-wise
sure.
as well with Ertz. He had 156 targets last year, and he had 9 games of double-digit targets. And when you look at Ertz, Kelsey, and Kittel, I think, kind of like you said, with the situation around him, I think Ertz has the least amount of changes and the least amount of question marks in the offense around him as well. You talked about Hill with Kansas City. You talked about Jimmy Garoppolo coming back. Ertz has got his quarterback. They even added a guy, like you said, that might make his situation a little better. So I agree with you there. I think he's probably the safest of the 3 if you're going to pay up for one.
Yeah. And, obviously things change a lot if you're in one of these FWC scenarios where the football guys drafts where the tight ends get 1.5 points PPR. Then it becomes a whole different story. Now you're going to see Kelsey and Ertz and those guys going in rounds 1 and 2. Just because they jack it up so much there. So, but again, it depends on your league. Know your league scoring and know what you've got going on there and see how it all plays out. All right, let's move down the list. We get into this next wave. There certainly have been some changes ADP wise here over the while. Basically, moving into the number 4 spot now in Fantasy Football Calculator is O.J. Howard at 508, and the only guy at 5th in the 5th round ADP-wise, which is kind of surprising to me. O.J. Howard showed some consistency last year when he played. He missed 6 games, so he was 7-10, so 70%, which ranked him 7th in consistency, 6th in xConsistency. Definitely worth it, but it's a little high for me, especially with Cameron Brate there. Bruce Arians hasn't always been a tight end kind of guy, but it's hard to ignore O.J. Howard's talent. Are you reaching this high for O.J. Howard?
No, because as I look at that ADP, there's guys that I'd be much more willing to wait on. I don't know, maybe I'm trying to look and see if there's anything, because that immediately made me wonder, is there something up with Cameron Brate? And I'm not really seeing anything.
I haven't heard anything, no.
He had a small procedure on his hip around May or in January, it looks like, but it says looks like he's good to go, so I don't think that's an issue with it. I think kind of like what you said, that Bruce Arians coming in kind of gives me a little more concern than Cameron Brate does. O.J. Howard's a freak show, though. He's a hell of an athlete, makes athletic plays, just got to stay healthy. But at 5'5", I'd rather wait around and get Hunter Henry or even Eric Ebron at 6'4" is kind of hanging out afterwards. That's kind of a head scratcher to me that Ebron's going after Howard.
Yeah, and almost a round and a half after Howard. I'm looking at the PPR ADP, and it's got Hunter Henry. So if we move down, Hunter Henry in the 6th round, they have Hunter Henry at 602, Evan Engram at 607, and Ebron at 612. I'm much happier taking Evan Engram a round later, knowing I'm getting 73% consistency the past 2 seasons, knowing that Daniel Jones could be the quarterback, who's going to need a security blanket, and Ingram's a perfect spot. I feel like Evan Ingram's going to get targeted tremendously for the Giants this year, and I guarantee you, if you looked at my best ball drafts, I bet you 80%, maybe 70%, 80% probably have Ingram as my tight end at this point, because I'm getting him in the 6th round or 7th round sometimes. So I just think there's much better value and much more consistency of consistency for Engram than a Howard who never had hit 70% until last year. And, did it, and then got hurt. So do you agree? I mean, are you thinking wait another round and grab one of those, or even 7th round where you've got Jared Cook, Vance McDonald? If I'm not drafting Engram, I'm drafting Jared Cook. That's pretty much it so far, because they're 6th, 7th round. They're good value in those spots. They both have the potential to put up some very good numbers in the systems they're in. They're not the main guy, but they're certainly, option number probably 3. You figure New Orleans, you've got, Michael Thomas, Kamara, and then Cook. I mean, maybe Ted Ginn occasionally, maybe, Traquan Smith every once in a while, but basically I look at Cook as being the number 3. Engram could be 1, could be 3, depends on how well, Sterling Shepard and Tate steps into the picture. But what are your thoughts on those guys and those rounds? Are you thinking waiting and passing by Howard and grabbing one of those?
Well, and it's not that I don't like O.J. Howard as a player.
Yeah.
I think he can end up being a really impactful fantasy tight end. Just how everything shakes out is the question. But it's just at this point, with the question marks around him at 5th round, I'm not going to pay that. But like you said, with this PPR sort, on the ADP, I mean, Jared Cook 7th round, like you said, or we talked about con streaming with the quarterbacks. This is kind of in that neighborhood where you start maybe looking at con streaming the tight ends. Maybe get Jared Cook, pair him later on with, I don't know,
Delanie Walker.
Later on, or you got a couple
Njoku in round
here.
8.
Yeah, so I mean, there's some guys we'll talk about as we go down the list, but this is kind of that neighborhood where I think maybe if you miss out on Engram or Ebron or that's kind of where you start looking at maybe the con streaming the concept that we talked about. Yeah,
absolutely, and once again, consistently streaming is on both the website and in the guide for both the quarterbacks and the tight ends. Both are just scenarios to look at. If you're not take tight end early, and maybe you're even not a big fan of taking tight ends in the 6th, 7th round, like we're talking here. There's certainly some good combinations that you can do later on that might be worthwhile to get you, 70% consistency and, with 2 picks from the 10th and 15th round. So, all right, so let's move down the list. We kind of have gone through those guys. Vance McDonald's the one. I see him floating around here. He's 9th. In the rankings, I can't say much. I think I have him. I lost my sheet. Ranked pretty. Where do I have him at? I have McDonald ranked 12th. So I have him in the top 12. I just don't know if I can. It's just so hard to know what's going to happen. I mean, this is going to be. I shouldn't say a completely different offense, but it's going to be a different offense with no Antonio Brown. Juju moves into his spot. But now there's no Juju as the number 2. So, does James Washington pick it up? Does Dante Moncrief pick it up? So maybe they will use Vance McDonald a little bit more. But he didn't really show any consistency last year that says, like if that late in the year I would have seen some numbers out of McDonald that was like, oh, wow, he had 3 clutch games out of the last 4 games. So, maybe there is a good signer, but he had 1 out of the last 6. Well, that doesn't tell me that, then that's when Brown was out of the picture, when he was starting, to kind of take time off and, so I just don't see, he was 11th in total points, but he was 40th in consistency, which ranked him 19th. Well, yeah, again, it looks like that, he's worth maybe being your a tight end 1. But the 40% consistency says he's not. Do you have any love for Vance McDonald at this point?
I have a little bit because I think you see an uptick in targets just because, you mentioned Antonio Brown, you mentioned Juju Smith-Schuster there, and we kind of expected James Washington to be that number 3, and that never really materialized. And so you have those 2 big wideouts, on both sides. That's going to take a little bit away from him. But you have Dante Moncrief stepping in. He's definitely not on the level of Juju Smith-Schuster as being the 2 like they had last year. And so I think you could see an uptick in targets for him. I think we'll see him be a little more consistent just because of that. We look at James Conner possibly. We talked in the running back preview about him maybe being dinged up a little bit, maybe that being one of the negatives about him. That could bode well for Vance McDonald. So I have a little bit of love for Vance McDonald at this point.
Yeah. I mean, again, he's – like I said, the thing for me is that it's 7th round. Like if he was 10th round, like if he was floating out there with – Austin Hooper and, TJ Hawkinson and that kind of stuff, I'd be like, okay, I'll take a shot. But I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. I doubt he's going to be on any of my teams because I'll probably, if I miss out on the guys I want, I'll probably hit the con streaming concept and we'll get to some of the guys that we'll draft there. So as we move down the list, we see at number 10, David Njoku. Njoku, again, here's another guy with lots of talent, but also has lots of weapons around him, and it's hard to understand what he's going to become in this offense. I mean, last year when they didn't have an OBJ, he was 9th in total points, which was nice, but 50% consistency, which ranked him 15th. So I have him 10th in our listings, in our rankings. But again, his consistency doesn't say he's 10th. And so I'm a little worried. 8th round isn't terrible, but he certainly could be a decent, again, maybe part of the plan in the con streaming scenario. You draft him in the 8th round and then get Delanie Walker or Jack Doyle or somebody later that could fill a role. And once you figure out where they're using Njoku more, home, away. Last year on the road against bad defenses, he was 3 for 3, 14.23. But again, that was without OBJ. So, he becomes a good red zone target as people will be double teaming OBJ. So it's going to be, there's just nothing I could put my fingers on, numbers wise, system wise, that makes me feel like this is the guy to have. Your thoughts?
I think it just kind of, you kind of gave the argument against. And at round 8, I'm okay with that. I think I have a little bit more love for Njoku than you do, especially in a PPR. But once again, there's a lot of question marks. You have some new blood coming in there. Baker Mayfield year 2. So I think the biggest thing for me is just kind of seeing if they're able to kind of develop that rapport in the offseason that wasn't really there. When you have a guy that is not the starter from the get-go, it could be a little bit difficult to build that up. So right. I'm okay with him in round 8, but I do think that's kind of where you start looking at that con streaming concept until you see that David Njoku, and you believe David Njoku is that week in, week out starter for your team, which he could be, and then there's always that chance he could not be because there's a lot of mouths to feed in Cleveland. You just kind of went over it.
Right. The interesting thing is if you look at the quality games by week last year, week 4 is basically when Mayfield came into play. Week 4, 5, 6, 7, he earned a clutch game. Week 9, he earned a clutch game. So he went 5 of 6. But then after Mayfield got comfortable with the offense, from week 10 on, he only got 3 more. So that's why I feel like now that Mayfield has a grasp, and he's got better weapons, that Njoku will be a good role player and certainly will be a good NFL player when they need him to be, but counting on him from week to week I think is going to be tough. But like you said, we'll just have to wait and see as we follow through with that. Next on the list in the 10th round, we have, let's go down our xConsistency. So the one guy, I guess we talked about him. So I have Delanie Walker ranked 9th overall. A lot of people don't have him anywhere near that spot. Right now, he's in the fantasy football calculator. He's 13th, going in the 12th round. We know Delanie Walker has certainly proved his consistency when he's healthy. That's what it's all about. So far, I've heard nothing but good news about his health, returning to full health. At this point, I still think he's a great value, and this is definitely a perfect guy for cotton streaming because of the fact that you can get him in the 12th round, and if he's healthy, he's almost a guarantee 65%, 70% consistency, and that's impressive for any tight end in this league. I mean, like I said, there wasn't too many guys over 70% last year, and most of them were top 7. So, if Walker can be 65, 70, he's right there. And the fact that he's tight end 13, round 12, grab him and, like I said, put him together with Njoku, and then see which one you can kind of figure out quicker. but I think that's a great combination. There's a lot of love for Austin Hooper, as there is every year. Between Hooper and Devontae Parker, I don't know who gets more hype this time of year. Somebody was arguing with me on one of the podcasts. I forget which one it was, but they're like, "How do you have no love for Hooper?" And I go, I had the guide up and I said, "Would you please reference page, blah 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 in the guide, and let's take a look at the numbers for Mr. Hooper, and you tell me why I have no love for this guy." And I go, "Look at the numbers: 30%, 31%, and last year was his quote best season, ranked 6th in total points, and was 38% consistent." I go, he had a lower consistency ranking than, guys like, I forget who it was. I think it was whoever I said was 19th. Who did I say was 19th earlier? Was it O.J. Howard? No, not O.J. Howard. Vance McDonald. And I'm like, here's Vance McDonald has even a little bit better than that. So I just can't get behind Hooper as a week-to-week guy. And, he doesn't have any real splits that says, well, if he was 70% consistent at home and 10% on the road, it'd be one thing. We could put him in the con streaming. But he's 38% at home, 31% on the road. So there's nothing there. It's just nothing to really hang your hat on and go, Hooper's a great fit in this spot. Do you have any love for Hooper yet?
I have him a little bit of love for him, kind of like we did last year. Colby and I had him a few times in our consistently cashed.
DFS, sure.
Yeah, if you were able to catch him in the right week, it was a solid deal. And I'm referring back to my targets list here. He had 88 targets last year, but he's kind of that. And here's kind of the reason that we look at this consistency is because weeks 5 and 6, 12, 10 targets. Then you go to week 10 with 11 targets and week 11 with 8 targets. Pretty much beyond that. So you look at about a span of 4 games there. That's roughly about half of his targets came in 4 games. So
right,
you were able to catch him in the right week because I remember there was one week that we had him in the consistently cashing article. He had like 10 grabs for like 70 yards and score. Well, that's a week winner right there.
Yeah.
But he's not going to do that for you every week. So I mean, if you get him in the con streaming concept, awesome. Just look at who he's going against. Look at who the matchup is. Perfect.
Yeah, and I'm wondering what those games were. If those are the games against the Saints or, a certain team, certain defense, because like I said, it doesn't really show in the consistency versus defense info. All right, so let's move. We got about 8 minutes, so we're doing okay. Let's move into the next group. Again, we're looking at late tight ends that might be potential con streaming people. Greg Olson is one of those. He's going in the 13th round. We all loved Greg Olson back in the day, which is like literally 2 years ago. But his injuries, his foot injuries, has just really slowed him down. I'm really kind of hoping that he makes a decision to go back, go to the booth and take Jason Witten's spot and let Ian Thomas be the tight end because he's a guy that I can jump on board and definitely add. I every once in a while I will pick up an Ian Thomas in a best ball in like round 20 or whatever, just to put him on there just in case Olson takes the jump. But he could have some good games. He could not. I'm not sold on him. The other one in round 13, I guess there's 2 of them. Kyle Rudolph at 1309, Jordan Reed at 1312. At this point, I'm still kind of sold that Jordan Reed, if he can stay healthy, and he did pretty well last year, can be a very solid tight end because he's always had the consistency when he's on the field. With Case Keenum there, maybe Dwayne Haskins will be playing. Who knows? They're going to need a security blanket, and Jordan Reed will be a great security blanket because they really don't have much at the receiver core. Are there any of those 3 that either you'd use for con streaming or you would just take as a great late round backup?
I mean, as I'm looking down through the list here, I don't know how much I am in on those guys. I mean, you talked about Jordan Reed. Jordan Reed's probably the guy that I would go with the most, but just, I always feel like I always get so scared of taking Jordan Reed just because of the injury history. And, he's been fairly healthy recently, but I always feel like if I take him that year, is this going to be the year where he plays like 2 games and he's done? So I don't know. There's a few guys maybe later on that I might wait a little bit on. But you mentioned Kyle Rudolph as well. Kyle Rudolph's a guy that I think when you look at Kyle Rudolph and you look at the Patriots, to me that seems like just kind of a perfect fit, you know. And so we still don't really know what Gronk's going to do. He says he's retired, but we don't really know if he's retired or not. To me, I think if they get some kind of indication that Gronk is going to sit it out, and the contract negotiations with the Vikings still kind of go the way they've been going.
Well, they're done. They signed.
Yeah. Oh, okay, they did.
Yeah, he signed a 4-year deal.
Oh, okay. I slept on that. Somehow I missed that.
Yes,
okay.
no worries. So he signed a 4-year deal for $36 million, $9 million a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's locked in. Now they could still trade him.
Yeah, that blows me away just from where we went when they said that they were not going to negotiate. So yeah, that one slipped through the cracks on me on that. But still, I mean, that just, like I said, that still makes a lot of sense to me if they do decide to trade for him, since the Vikings are kind of stocked, especially at offensive type tight ends, after the draft. So that could be one that there could be a move there. But I even if he stays in Minnesota, I don't think there's going to be as much inconsistency there as there was last year. I think he can shoot up a little bit. So those are a couple guys I might look at, but I don't know. I'm a little sketchy on Jordan Reed, though.
I got you. All right, so the rest of the group, 14th round, is pretty much what plays out here. But, I don't see any of those. I mean, I'm really surprised Jimmy Graham's going this bad. Last year he was 12th in total points. He played all 16 games. Yeah, his consistency was 44%. But again, hell, it was better than Vance McDonald's and Austin Hooper's. I get it. He's not the same. He started off red hot. He had 7 clutch games. He earned 6 of them before week 9 and then just fell off the face of the earth. I mean, he just became an old man real quick. But surprisingly enough, the Packers didn't go get anybody to replace him. So that's the kind of thing is kind of like, well, there's nobody else there to take his spot. No, I take that back. They got Jay Sternberger.
Yeah.
Right. So they got him in the draft, but again, that's a rookie. Certainly there's potential there. I mean, if you're going to get Graham, you better get Sternberger, but we know that tight end's never been a big role for the Packers in a long time, probably since the Jermichael Finley days. So, I don't have a lot of love there. But the guy that's missing from this, which still blows my mind, he's not even in the ADP rankings. This is a guy I know you love as much as I do, is our good man, Jack Doyle. And Jack Doyle is healthy right now. They're getting good reports of him running at full speed in camp. He was 67% consistent until he went down last year, and that was with Ebron still earning those clutch games. So I feel like Doyle is like the best pick for a late round, especially best ball, or even con streaming if you want to get, an Engram or somebody like Delanie Walker in the 10th round and grab Doyle in the 15th round. He's definitely available. There is no love for this guy.
Well, he's my man crush. So
I know. Yeah,
late,
I'm with you. But, and at this value, how is he not everybody's man crush?
Well, and I mentioned kind of like what I mentioned with Austin Hooper earlier. Jack Doyle's kind of that PPR guy as well. He's one of those 8 catch for 60-yard,
right?
Maybe a touchdown here and there.
Ebron will get the touchdowns, but yeah,
right, yeah. I mean, the touchdowns may not be there as much, but if you're getting him this late and you're pairing him with somebody else, or you throw him in there maybe as a flex, maybe you have injuries and you throw him in as a flex in a PPR one week, or you have one of those weird tight end wide receiver flex spots, you could easily plug him in there and get 8-9 points per week, instead of plugging in like maybe a third down kind of scat back kind of guy. So I'd be a little more comfortable doing that with Jack Doyle than I would be maybe one of those third down running backs.
Absolutely, and to earn a clutch game in a PPR. For tight ends, you just have to be over basically 8.3 points. Well, that's 4 catches for 50 yards. That to me doesn't sound like much of anything, and that's a typical Jack Doyle week. So if he can get you 9, 10, 11 points a week, it doesn't sound like a lot of points, but in a PPR, that's consistency, and you're getting that in the 15th round, man, it's just hard to pass that up. I mean, I think in every best ball I've done, same thing. I've gotten my one main tight end, and if I missed out, then I do the Delanie Walker, Jack Doyle. But in any case, Jack Doyle is going to be is usually my backup, because why not? Why would I not do that? All right, so we got a minute left. So Ron, tell everybody like where they can find you, what you've been doing baseball wise, all that kind of happy stuff.
Okay, you can find me on Twitter at TheRealMyDay. You can find me on the Nasty Cast Fantasy Baseball Podcast at Fantrax HQ, along with the Fantrax Dynasty Baseball Podcast with my man Nate Dawkins and Van Lee. And check out their writing. Check out Nate Dawkins' Fire and Ice article every week and the Starting Pitcher Barometer on Fantrax HQ. You tune in this week. We're getting close to some milestone episodes, and I'm sure I will go on a rant at some point about the Rays potentially splitting games with Montreal.
Yeah, I heard about that. I'm sure that's going to be a hot topic. All right. As usual, you can find me at Bob_Lung on Twitter. Big Guy Fantasy Sport is the site for all of this great information, as always. If you want to get the Fantasy Football Consistency Guide, don't forget to go out to Amazon. I found out, I don't know if you remember, I think we talked about this last week. So somebody showed that if you go to Amazon and you type in 2019 CONSI, it automatically pops up the guide. That's how quick you can find it. You don't even have to put fantasy football. So everybody have a good week. We will see you next week. Thanks again. Take care. God bless.
Seasons change. Spring training slides into the regular season. Summer cools into fall. Leaves change their color. Lives change their shape. Change is life's only constant. AAA Insurance is here to be your guide through life's journey. Protect what matters most. Make sure you have the right insurance for whatever season of life you're in. Talk to your local AAA insurance agent today. Visit AAA.com for details.
Right now, you can get both Sprint's unlimited plan and the all-new Samsung Galaxy S10 included for just $35 per month per line for 5 lines. All you need is approved credit and an 18-month lease. No trade-in required. Visit a Sprint store, sprint.com, or call 800-SPRINT-1.
Phone $15 a month after $22.50 a month. Credit apply within 2 bills. If canceled earlier, main balance due. Unlimited basic after 6/30/20. Pay $32 per month per line for 5 lines with auto pay. Data deprioritization during congestion. Speed maximums. Use rules and restrictions apply.